Well, it's a great title from a David Foster Wallace essay, which reads, "A supposedly fun thing I'll never do again." A supposedly fun thing I'll never do again. I can so relate to that. Those words encapsulate so well what I've often felt as I've sat kicking myself, full of regret, for having allowed myself to be persuaded to attend some event that people who, well, I'm not going to listen to anymore, told me would be fun. We'll have a great time doing such and such. Well, that fun event, that social event, has so often turned out for me to be another experience of torture, where the ear-splitting music and the inane laughter and the displays of gimcackery descend and close in on me. And so often I would ruefully sit there slumped, determining never again, figuratively, to boil myself to death at such a party cauldron. You see, for me, almost every time, the more fun people are having, the more do I feel dislocated and alienated. I think it's because I'm from elsewhere, that I've never really belonged here. And so earthbound people having good times, I just feel surrounded and suffocated. At the fun event, my tendency is to feel like I need to offer up some resistance to becoming a member of the bleeding herd, which are somehow they're increasingly and enthusiastically led towards getting pinned up together as the evening progresses. And my imagination is such that momentarily I'm expecting poison gas cylinders to be thrown into the crowd. And I hope to get away before that happens. Now, I'm getting a little better at avoiding being trapped at fun events. However, there are times when can't get away from it, gotta show up and want to be polite. Still, you can expect to find me, if you care to, nowhere near where the crowd is gathering. You'll find me either sitting over in a corner, maybe because I've met a kindred spirit the faraway look on her face intrigued me, and we're having a talk, or I'm quietly making my way towards the exit, although there are times too when I've simply bolted for the door because I just couldn't take it anymore, the noise and all the shenanigans. So I identify with David Foster Wallace, who soon after boarding a fun-seeking cruise ship found himself feeling what? Feeling suicidal. I think this is understandable and an appropriate reaction. This is how it seems to me. Says David about the supposedly fun cruise, there's something about a mass market luxury cruise that is unbearably sad. Well, I concur with that, and I think it's sad because the people on the cruise, or for that matter at the party, are all too typically connecting without connecting. That is, they're partying hard as all kinds of pseudo-intimate, extravagant gestures are made by people caught up in the supposedly fun time that they're having together. But I know from long experience of counseling in the corner sessions, where people tell me their troubles while the party rages, that what not a few beings really, really, really want, their deepest longing, is actually to have somebody to talk to, someone to really talk to when the party is over. I often think of what a wise pastor once said, that the real test of the value of some supposedly spectacularly fun weekend is the quality of the conversation you enjoy with your spouse on the following Monday morning. And the kind of questions, therefore, that I'd like to ask about the weekend of supposed fun, spectacular fun, was, because of the inspiration, because of all the fun you experienced on the weekend, is there now in you like an increased sensitivity to your wife as you listen to her more deeply than you ever have before? And is there deep joy when you talk with her? Could the conversation go on and on because of the energy it creates? And is it that she now feels heard and understood in a way she hasn't before because of your well-spent time on the weekend? Yes, you went to the great party and you danced until you no longer felt any pain, as they say. Or it was last weekend that you pressed in with the crowds to behold the latest touring, weeping icon. Or perhaps it was that you deliriously shouted with the crowd, "Yes, we can, or we can do it, we can do it." with all of the spiritual superstars strutting their stuff across the stage in front of you. But now, and I mean like really now, that you're home again, what's it like when you actually sit and talk to another human being? What kind of energy field do you create when you simply talk with another human being? You talk about making a difference in the world. What kind of difference are you making with your wife and your children? Or for that matter, how's it going with your mother and your father? Are you a presence to these people in such a way that they marvel at your bright, shining, listening presence? Someone said to me recently, a psychologist I know, with long experience of listening to lonely people, that people rarely, if ever, talk to each other in a soulful and meaningful way. They don't even know how, she said. They don't even know what it is to do it. Yet they will expend huge amounts of energy to be up and doing, on the go, going places, doing things, and my, how they like to party. Boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka. My question, again, another question, is there a relation between how hard you party and how empty your primary relationships are? Is there a relation? I suspect so. So it's my sense that David's response to the fun cruise was entirely appropriate. It was an indication of health and sanity on his part. A sensitive being, he was driven to such a state of despair, as he says, especially at night when all the ship's structured fun and reassurances and gaiety noise ceased. Like, Lord, spare us from structured fun sessions. And that's how it goes. When there are no more party noises and you're alone again in your room with the lights out, well, a certain lucidity then may be possible. And it was David who felt at those times a sense of dread or angst, that's what he writes about, and he thought of jumping overboard. And I understand this, though I wish that this gifted man could have met a guru or somebody somewhere who somehow could have helped him to find peace of soul, for eventually, tragically, indeed, he did take his own life. I could wish that I had met David on a cruise somewhere and we could have shared together our disgust for the goings-on, the atmosphere of the party. That's my idea of fun, is to meet someone like a David who really hates the thing, who hates that atmosphere because he's looking for something more. And my sense is that behind, let's call it a kind of a holy hatred about these things, is someone who has a deep love actually for what deepens, raises the human spirit towards real joy and real bliss. So if you're someone who hates strongly, has like a strong reaction, like I think, oh, great, because it may be that in a certain sense, it's because you're someone of character and you strongly love what is good and true and beautiful. Now, what I'm after, in contrast to what some supposedly fun event has to offer, is to connect more deeply with what John O'Donohue, the Irish poet-philosopher, called a point of absolute non-connection within us, a point of absolute non-connection within us. He called it the incommensurable in us. Like there's something in us that doesn't correspond to anything external. The incommensurable in us, he said, is a sacred opening in the soul that can be filled by nothing external. A sacred opening in the soul that can be filled by nothing external. Thus, instead of living outside of that inner vital dynamic connection, which is to live outside of ourselves, we learn to find our deepest belonging in solitude. Otherwise, as O'Donohue warns, your external longing will remain needy and driven. O'Donohue states that there's a wonderful welcome within, and quotes from Meister Eckhart, who illuminates this point. He says that there's a place in the soul that neither space nor time nor flesh can touch. This is the eternal place within us. And he says, O'Donohue says, and it would be a lovely gift to yourself to go there often, to be nourished, strengthened, and renewed. The deepest things, says John O'Donohue, the deepest things that you need are not elsewhere. Now, I experienced this the lovely gift he referred to, through a regular meditation practice. And it was my good fortune recently to be in the tropics, where I felt its atmosphere particularly calling me to rise early in the morning. And thus I would sit there on my meditation cushion, like feeling that atmosphere, the tropical atmosphere. It's wonderful. I think, well, I'd love to move. Anyway, I'd love to go back and forth between the two places. So tremendous. I would sit on that cushion, I would repeat the holy words that would take me to that place within that no external anything can fulfill. My best times, indeed, were when I sat on that meditation cushion. Sadly, somehow people don't want to hear about that at the party. I still sometimes hope I can talk about it with somebody, but almost never happens. Now, I don't always feel great ecstasy when I meditate, though I've had some good times and glorious times, but most of the time it's just like a sense of quiet peace. But you know what? It's a quiet peace that I can't live without. People tell me all the time that it's rarely, if ever, their experience to have that kind of sense. And not long ago, indeed, somebody said to me, I haven't had an experience like that in more than 40 years. I don't even hardly know what you're talking about. And even the people I know who have expressed enormous interest in spiritual practice tell me that they do not engage in this kind of practice. Though, interestingly, they always seem to say that they can't imagine there being anything more important. I don't want to ask, but I somehow seem to learn pretty quickly that it's almost always the case that months have passed in their lives, or even years, and they're still not experiencing a regular quiet time or being time. So what I want to say, just very simply, my message this day is that for any of us to be living without that vital inner connection, not taking time to nourish and strengthen that, it may indicate, and may likely be the case, as O'Donohue puts it, that what we tend to be doing is wallpapering the void. And it sounds so terrible. And I don't wish to be such a being, wallpapering the void. Therefore, I return time and time again to that meditation cushion, finding joy there and caring less and less about what people call fun. You know what words I shudder to hear or would dread to hear? These are the words. Listen to this. They keep us busy here with lots of fun things to do. They keep us busy here with lots of fun things to do. It's a description of hell.